So there's the on-off knob. Now if you want to replace this with a CP continuous flow or something like that, that's up to you. But that's how you remove the knob. If this is ever leaking, wipe it down and re-lube it up with like a Dow 33, something that's really thick and usually will prevent the leaking. And so let's go ahead and put that back into the gun. Now with this nut, this set screw here, you don't want to tighten this down too much. If you tighten this down too much, it can make your thing here, your on-off knob, a little too really hard to spin because you're putting pressure on it. Usually what I do is I just get it down pretty close and then make sure that I can feel it stop, which I can there. Go ahead and go down just a little bit further. Okay. All right, and that moves freely, so I'm good there. Now what I can do is take the front screw and get this down about a turn and a half. There we go. And now when putting the DM8 back together, it's very important to pay attention to the wires. You want to make sure that the wires are pushed alongside of the solenoid. If they are not pushed into the groove here alongside of the solenoid, you do run the risk of pinching wires. Okay. Now if the wires are put in there properly, your frame will sit flush as it does here. So let's go ahead and tighten down the front screw. Okay. Go ahead and gently tighten down the back screw. Now, usually what I do is I get both of these finger tight and then tighten them down one right after another. So let's go ahead and screw down the back screw. Okay, back screw is snug. Let's go ahead and screw down the front screw. All right, all set. Now what we're going to do is put the grips back on it and we'll be all set to go. On this step, what I'm going to show you is the new eye carriage that comes in the DM8. Okay, what it is, it's a little piece of rubber, okay, like what you can see here, and what it does is this fits down into a groove inside of the chamber, and once it's down into the groove, this piece right here goes over the top of it and the eyes go inside here. Okay, these self-cleaning eyes, this is how you get the eyes in and out of a DM8. Now what you do is you'll see there's two little holes here. Go ahead and stick the eyes into the holes. Okay, and then what you do is using a pair of long needle nose pliers, you go ahead and stick it down into the breech. Okay, now once it's down into the breech, what you have to do is you have to orient it and push it down into the groove. Okay, you stick your finger down inside there. Okay. All right. And the eyes are in. So that's basically how I do it. Usually I just use the needle nose pliers to push it down in there and then stick your finger inside of the breech and go ahead and make sure that you feel that it's flush. So if you want to remove it, take yourself a long pair of needle nose pliers, stick it down inside there, grab it, and you can pull them out. Okay? Okay, now the next step I'm going to show you here is a little trick that I picked up from the damage players and other people that are using the DM8. Now, over the course of a lot of cases being shot through the guns, the detents sometimes can shoot out of the gun. Now, a tip that I picked up here is if the detents are shot out of the gun and you don't have any spares, what you can do is you take these the basic intimidator detents or the spider detents, or they're also used for like aliases and stuff like that. What you do is you take them and you cut this little nubbin off of the front of them here. So this long piece right here, cut that off and cut them down to little stubs like this. Okay. Now when the stubs are in, once you cut it down to the stubs, what you do is you go ahead and press the stubs into the carriage. Okay, and then go ahead and slide the carriage back into the gun. Now you do need to make sure that the carriage lines up perfectly. There is a notch, so you have to make sure that the carriage lines up perfectly. Okay. Now once you get it lined up, one of the easiest ways to get it completely into the gun is just go ahead and screw in your barrel into the front. Once you know that you have it lined up perfectly, you can just use your barrel, and as you screw it in with your barrel, it'll push it all the way in and push your push that eye protector all the way back into the breech. So reach in there and we feel it's perfectly in. Detents are where they should be. I feel a detent on both sides. Now you go ahead and stick the bolt assembly back into the gun. Okay, and you've just serviced the eyes on the DM8. And what we'll do is, okay, we plug the eye wire and the solenoid wire back in. And what we do is we test the eyes. Okay, we can see that that's turning green, so we know that the eyes are working. So now making sure that this wire stays along the groove here, let's go ahead and put the gun back together. Okay, so we know the eyes work. Let's go and put the DM8 back together. Alright, so we'll put the grip frame back on and test it for leak. Now that you got your die completely put back together, keep in mind with the die regulators, if you screw the nut in, you cut off the pressure. If you back the nut out, you increase pressure. So before you put air into your tank after a complete disassembly of your DM8, I recommend that you take both of your low pressure regulator and your high pressure regulator and screw the nuts in until they're about finger tight. You don't have to torque them down. Do not torque them down. Just screw them in until you feel some resistance and then stop. That right there should be pretty close to 0 psi. Now what you want to do with your gun is once you have both regulators screwed in, then go ahead and put your air into your tank. Okay, now your gun is sitting at 0 psi. Now what I recommend that you do is on your high pressure regulator, I usually start with about 2 turns out from screwed all the way in. It gets a little bit of air pressure into the gun, lets you know if you have any leaks. So we got 1, 2. Okay. Now what we want to do is, now that we've got 2 turns on the high pressure regulator, now what you want to do is back out your low pressure regulator about 2.5 turns to see if the gun starts to cycle. So we go 1, 2, 2.5. Okay. Now what I always do is, my rule of thumb is if it stings your hand, it should be shooting pretty close to 300 feet per second. So let's give it a shot. Okay, nope, not yet. The bolt is barely cycling at this point. So what we want to do is let's back it out another turn. Now we were at 2.5. This is going to take us to 3.5 turns on the low pressure regulator. Okay, 3.5 turns. Okay, it's getting there. We'll back it out about another half a turn. Okay. I can feel that's probably shooting about 190, so let's go ahead and back out the high pressure regulator one more turn. This is going from 2 turns to 3 turns. 3 turns. Now let's see if it stings the hand. Okay, it's getting there. Now at this point, I would recommend going to a chronograph and testing your gun, okay? What you want to do probably at this point is give your maybe your low pressure regulator maybe about another half a turn, and then stop, try it out. Okay. Now we start to feel, now you have to play the balancing act between your low pressure regulator and your high pressure regulator, and I recommend doing that over a chronograph. Go up a little bit higher on your high pressure regulator, make sure that your gun is cycling okay with no drop off, and then keep balancing it back and forth. You don't want to over pressurize your bolt, and you want to make sure that your gun is chronoing to 300 feet per second. So usually at this point, this is where I stop messing with my gun here at the house. I take it to the field, reset my pressures, and make sure that my gun is shooting okay, 300 feet per second. And that's about it for taking apart a DM8. Very, very easy, very, very simple gun to take apart. There's really not a whole heck of a lot to it. I definitely don't recommend getting into the eyes with this gun. If your eyes are working fine on a DM8, don't mess with it, okay? But that's about it for DM8. It's a solid gun. Thank you for tuning in.